The space station Halion floated in the darkness of space like a small city surrounded by a sea of stars. Ships came and went every day, carrying traders, workers, and travelers from hundreds of different worlds. Inside the station, bright corridors were filled with the sound of footsteps, voices, and the hum of machines that kept the station alive. Tom had arrived only 3 days ago. He was a new technician hired to repair and maintain the station's water systems. He liked the job well. Enough! But what fascinated him most was the variety of people who lived here. There were humans from Earth, tall and strong reptilian traders from the South Colonies, small insect-like engineers from the asteroid belts, and many more species he could not even name yet. On his first day, he had been warned. The warning came from his work partner, a short man named Real. Real had a serious face and spoke in a low voice as they walked through the crowded docking bay. "Do not talk to her," Real said, keeping his eyes fixed straight ahead. Tom frowned. "Who?" Real tilted his head slightly, signaling toward the far side of the docking bay. There, sitting on a metal bench near the security checkpoint, was a woman unlike anyone Tom had ever seen. Her skin was a rich teal blue, smooth and unmarked. Her hair was dark and tied back simply, and her clothes were plain. She sat with her hands folded, looking at the floor. "That one," Real said. "The alien woman. Keep away from her." Tom glanced at her again. She looked calm, almost too calm in the middle of a noisy docking bay. "Why? What is wrong with her?" Real shook his head. "Some say she is dangerous. Others say she is cursed. I only know that speaking to her brings trouble. People who get close to her end up on the wrong side of the station council. Just stay away." Tom did not reply. He wanted to ask more questions, but Real's serious tone made it clear. The conversation was over. They moved on to their work, and Tom tried to focus on the water pumps and filters instead of the strange woman in the docking bay. Over the next 2 days, he saw her again. She always sat alone. Sometimes she was in the public gardens sitting, near the artificial river that flowed under the soft light panels. Other times she was in the market area, standing quietly near the fresh fruit stalls, but never buying anything. She never spoke to anyone, and no one spoke to her. It was strange. Halion was full of noise and movement, yet wherever she was, there seemed to be a circle of emptiness around her. People gave her space as if she carried an invisible wall. Tom could not stop thinking about her. Something about the warnings bothered him. Rill and others spoke as if she were a storm ready to strike, but when Tom looked at her, he saw something else. Her face did not carry anger or threat. If anything, he saw sadness. It was in the way her eyes moved slowly, as if she was remembering a place far away. On the 3rd day, Tom's shift ended early. He decided to walk through the gardens before heading to his quarters. The gardens were one of his favorite parts of the station. Green trees, soft grass, and the sound of water made him forget the endless metal walls outside. He noticed her immediately. She was sitting on a wooden bench near the river. The light panels above cast a warm glow on her teal blue skin. She was watching the water, unmoving, like someone lost in deep thought. Tom slowed his steps. His mind went back to the warning. Do not talk to her. Keep away. But he felt no fear. He only felt curiosity. He walked toward the bench. When he reached it, he sat down at the far end. She turned her head slightly, her dark eyes meeting his for the first time. There was surprise there, but no anger. They did not speak. For a long moment, they simply sat side by side, watching the water flow. The air in the gardens was fresh. Somewhere nearby, small mechanical birds sang a gentle tune. Tom felt the strange tension of being near someone who carried so many rumors, yet he also felt an odd sense of peace. After a while, she looked back at the river. Her posture was calm but distant, as if she was still not sure what to think of the man who had chosen to sit beside her. Tom did not try to start a conversation. He did not even know if she spoke his language. But he thought, for just a moment, that he saw the corner of her mouth move as if she was almost smiling. He stayed for a few more minutes before standing up to leave. She did not follow him with her eyes. She simply remained there, still and silent, as he walked away. When Tom returned to his quarters, Rill was waiting for him. The short man looked angry. "I heard what you did," Rill said. "You sat next to her." Tom raised an eyebrow. "Yes, and?" Rill stepped closer. "Do you think this is a joke? People are going to notice. If the council hears that you are spending time near her, they might start asking questions you do not want to answer." "I did not speak to her," Tom said calmly. "That is not the point," Rill replied. "It is not about what you say. It is about being seen. She has enemies. If they think you are connected to her, you will become a target too." Tom leaned against the wall and crossed his arms. "Maybe she is not as dangerous as everyone says." Rill's eyes narrowed. "You do not understand. Stay away from her, Tom. That is the last time I will say it." Tom said nothing. Rill left, shaking his head. That night, Tom lay on his bed looking at the ceiling. The hum of the station filled the silence. He thought of the woman's face, the way her eyes had studied him without speaking. He had not planned to see her again, but he knew he would. Something about her quiet presence made him feel that there was more to her story than the warnings could explain. The next day, Tom started his shift early. The air in the lower decks smelled faintly of oil and metal. He spent most of the morning repairing a water regulator in the residential sector. Rill worked beside him, speaking very little. It was clear that Rill was still angry about what had happened in the gardens. Tom did not mind the silence. His thoughts kept wandering back to the teal-blue woman. He remembered the stillness around her, the way she looked at the river, and the almost smile she had given him. It was not something he could ignore. By midday, Tom's work was finished. He left his tools in the storage room and decided to walk through the station before returning to his quarters. His steps carried him toward the public gardens again. When he entered, the light panels above glowed with a soft golden hue. The station engineers had programmed the lights to mimic late-afternoon sunlight. Artificial breezes moved the leaves of the tall trees, and the sound of water echoed gently from the river. She was there again. This time she was sitting on the same bench as before, but her posture was different. She leaned forward slightly, elbows on her knees, eyes fixed on the flowing water. Tom hesitated. He knew Rill's voice would be telling him to turn away, to avoid her, but curiosity pushed him forward. He walked down the path until he reached the bench and sat at the same end as yesterday. She turned her head just enough to see him, then looked back at the water. Neither of them spoke. For a long moment, Tom simply listened to the sounds of the gardens. He could hear the soft hum of the ventilation system, the chirping of artificial birds, and the quiet rush of the river. Then something unexpected happened. A group of station residents walked past the bench, speaking in low voices. Tom caught fragments of their words. "That is her. Cannot believe he is sitting there again. He must not know who she is." Tom kept his eyes on the water. He did not want to give them the satisfaction of a reaction. The woman remained still, though he thought he saw a faint tension in her shoulders. When the voices faded, Tom decided to break the silence. "You come here often," he said softly. She did not answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was low and clear. "Yes." It was the first time he had heard her speak. The sound carried a calm tone, yet there was something distant in it, as if she was used to speaking only when necessary. "It is peaceful here," Tom said. She nodded but said nothing more. Tom did not push her to talk. He had learned long ago that silence could be more powerful than words. They sat together like that for several minutes, neither of them trying to fill the air. From where he sat, Tom noticed the way she looked at the water, not like someone admiring its beauty, but like someone remembering something. Her eyes followed the flow, but her mind seemed far away. Finally, she spoke again. "Why do you sit here?" Tom turned his head toward her. "I like the river and the company." Her gaze moved to him, steady and searching. "You know who I am?" "I know what people say," Tom replied. "I also know that people are often wrong." Her lips curved slightly, but it was not quite a smile. "And you are willing to take that risk?" Tom shrugged. "I do not see you as a risk." For a moment her eyes held his. Then she turned back to the water. "Most do." They sat quietly for a while longer. Tom noticed small details about her now, the way her hair caught the golden light, the way her fingers moved slightly as if she was counting something in her mind, the way her breathing was slow and even. When the station's clock chimed to mark the next hour, she stood up. "I will see you again," she said simply, and walked away along the path. Tom watched her go. She moved with quiet confidence, her steps unhurried, as if she was used to walking alone. People on the path stepped aside for her without a word. When she was gone, Tom stayed on the bench for a few more minutes, thinking about what she had said. She had not told him her name. She had not explained the rumors. Yet in those few words, she had made it clear that she had noticed him, and perhaps even accepted his presence. That evening, Tom returned to his quarters and found Rill waiting again. "You went back," Rill said flatly. "Yes," Tom replied. "You spoke to her," Rill said, his voice sharp. Tom leaned against the wall. "Briefly." Rill shook his head. "Do you want trouble? Do you want to be dragged into her mess? Because that is where this is going." "I will decide that for myself," Tom said calmly. Rill stared at him for a moment, then let out a frustrated sigh. "You are a fool." He turned and walked away without another word. When the door closed, Tom sat down on his bed. He thought of the woman's steady gaze, of her question, "Why do you sit here?" and of her parting words. He did not know her story yet, but he felt certain now that he wanted to. The station lights dimmed to signal night cycle. Outside the small window of his quarters, the stars glimmered in endless black space. Somewhere among the many decks of Halion, the teal-blue woman was walking alone. Life on the Halion station moved quickly. Ships arrived and left at all hours, and people were always in a hurry. But even in a place so busy, rumors could spread like fire. It had been only 2 days since Tom had first spoken to the teal-blue woman in the gardens, yet whispers about it had already reached places he had never been. Tom noticed it first in the way people looked at him. In the corridors, in the market, even in the engineering section, strangers would glance at him, then quickly look away. Conversations sometimes stopped when he entered a room. Rill confirmed it during their morning shift. "You have done it now," Rill said while tightening a valve on a water line. "Everyone knows you are the one who sits with her. You will not be able to take that back." Tom kept his focus on the tool in his hand. "I do not care about rumors." "You should," Rill replied sharply. "The station council does not like people getting close to her. They fear she will cause problems, and they will not protect you if trouble comes." Tom set the tool down and faced him. "What exactly is she supposed to have done?" Rill hesitated, then lowered his voice. "Some say she is part of the Vereen conflict. It was a war between her people and a trading alliance. Both sides lost ships, cities, and thousands of lives. She was a diplomat, but instead of ending the war, she made both sides hate her. Now neither wants her. That is the story." Tom frowned. If that is true, why is she here? Because the station is neutral, Rill said. For now. But neutrality is fragile. If one side finds her, they might attack the station to get to her. Tom thought about that for the rest of the shift. It explained the way people avoided her and the way they avoided him now, but it did not explain the sadness he had seen in her eyes. That evening, Tom went to the gardens again. The path lights glowed softly and the air smelled faintly of flowers. She was there, sitting on the same bench as always. When Tom approached, she looked at him without surprise. "You came back," she said. "I told you I liked the river." Tom replied with a small smile. Her gaze held his for a moment before returning to the water. "The others will not like it. They already speak of you." "I have noticed," Tom said. "They think being near you will bring trouble." "They are not wrong," she said quietly. "Trouble follows me." Tom sat down beside her. "Then maybe you should tell me why." For a moment, she did not answer. Then she spoke, her voice low and steady. "My name is Areen. I was a negotiator during the Vireen conflict. I tried to stop the fighting, but the leaders on both sides refused to listen. They said I worked for the enemy. When the war ended, there was no place for me on either world." Tom listened carefully. Her words carried no anger, only a tired honesty. "So you came here," he said. "Yes," she replied. "The station is one of the few places where neither side has full control, but even here, I am watched. And if the wrong people find me, they will not hesitate to act." Tom thought about this. "Why stay here then? Why not go farther away?" She shook her head. "Because there are still things I must do. There is information I have that could stop another war before it starts. I cannot leave until I find someone willing to take it to the right people." Tom's curiosity grew stronger. "And you have not found anyone yet?" "No," she said simply. "Most fear me before they hear the truth." For a while they sat in silence again. Tom looked at her and saw not danger, but determination. She carried herself with quiet strength, even though she was alone in a place that wanted to forget her. When Tom left the gardens that night, he knew that he had already made a choice. Whatever her story was, he wanted to hear all of it. The next morning, Tom noticed a change. Two uniformed officers from the station's security team were waiting near his work area. They did not speak to him, but they watched him for several minutes before leaving. Rill saw it too. "They are keeping an eye on you," he said. "It is only a matter of time before they ask questions." "I will answer them," Tom said. Rill shook his head. "You do not understand. On Halion, answering is not enough. If they think you are a problem, they will find a way to move you out." Later that day, as Tom walked through the market, he heard two traders speaking behind him. "He is the human sitting with her," one said. "He will regret it," the other replied. "They always do." Tom kept walking. He had never been someone to back away from what he believed was right. And something told him that Arin's story was far more important than the warnings. That night, Tom returned to the gardens once more. He saw Arin sitting alone under the soft lights, her eyes fixed on the river. "You came again," she said as he sat down. "I will keep coming," Tom replied. Arin studied him for a moment. "Then you should know something. If you choose to stay near me, your life on this station will change. Friends may turn away, work may become harder, and there may come a day when you have to choose between your safety and mine." Tom met her, gaze without hesitation. "I will take that risk." For the first time since he had met her, she smiled. Not a faint curve of the lips, but a real, if small, smile. "Then perhaps I can tell you everything." The river flowed quietly beside them. carrying the sound of water through the warm air of the gardens. Somewhere far away in the station, the voices of the fearful continued to spread. But here, on this bench, two people had found a fragile beginning of trust. The Halion station had its own rhythm. Lights brightened in the morning cycle, the market opened, workers filled the corridors, and then everything slowed at night. Tom had grown used to this pattern in the short time he had been here, but that night, the pattern broke. It began in the gardens. Tom had gone there after his shift, as he often did now. Arin was on the bench by the river, her posture calm, her gaze fixed on the water. He sat down without a word, and she gave a small nod, in greeting. They were talking quietly about the river's design when the lights flickered once, twice, then went dark. The soft glow from the light panels above vanished, replaced by an eerie dim red from the emergency strips along the paths. The sound of the river seemed louder now in the sudden stillness. Tom looked around. "That is not normal, is it?" Arin shook her head. "Power cuts are rare here. If the backup lights are on, it means the main systems failed." A voice crackled from the station's public speakers, but the words were faint and broken. Tom could not make out the message. Somewhere, in the distance, footsteps echoed and then silence returned. Arin rose to her feet. "We should not stay here. When the lights go out, the station changes. People get nervous." Tom stood beside her. "Where do you suggest we go?" She glanced toward the maintenance corridor at the far edge of the gardens. "There. Fewer people. Safer for now." They walked quickly. The path lights gave only enough brightness to see a few steps ahead. Tom's ears caught faint sounds, doors opening, hurried voices, the metallic clang of tools somewhere in the distance. Inside the maintenance corridor, the air was cooler. Pipes lined the walls and the hum of backup generators vibrated faintly. Underfoot. "Do you think this is an accident?" Tom asked. Arin's voice was calm but firm. "Maybe, but sometimes power cuts are used as cover. It is easier to move unseen in the dark." Her words made Tom glance over his shoulder. "Are you saying someone could be after you right now?" She met his eyes. It would not be the first time. They reached a junction where the corridor split. Arin stopped and leaned against the wall, listening. The sound of water flowing through the pipes was steady, but beyond that, there was nothing. "This place is quiet," Tom said. "Too quiet," Arin replied. They stayed there for a few moments. The dim red light gave her teal-blue skin a shadowed look, but her eyes stayed sharp and alert. Tom could see she was scanning every sound, every shift of air. Finally, she spoke. "You want to know the truth about me, do you not?" Tom nodded. "Yes." She looked away for a moment, as if deciding how much to tell him. "During the Virene conflict, I was sent as a negotiator to end the war. I saw what both sides were doing, the destruction, the trade routes they were fighting over. I found proof that some leaders were using the war to hide illegal deals. I tried to bring that proof to light." Tom's voice was low. "What happened?" "Both sides turned on me," Arin said. "They called me a traitor. To them, I was not loyal to either cause. They said I was dangerous because I knew too much. When the war ended, there was no place for me on any world. I came here thinking I could disappear." "But you did not disappear," Tom said quietly. Her gaze returned to him. "No. Some people still want what I know, and some want to make sure I never speak of it again." Tom understood now why people kept their distance. It was not only fear of her, it was fear of the storm that might follow her. A faint, metallic sound echoed down the corridor. Tom froze. Arin heard it too. She motioned for him to stay quiet. They waited, listening. The sound came again, softer this time, like someone moving slowly in the dark. Arin whispered, "We need to move." They followed the corridor deeper into the station. The emergency lights guided them in short stretches of red glow, broken by shadows. Tom stayed close to Aaron, alert for any movement. At last, they reached a sealed door with a small manual control panel. Aaron turned the wheel slowly, opening it just enough for them to slip through. On the other side was a small storage room filled with crates and spare parts. "This will do for now," she said. Tom sat on an empty crate while Aaron stood by the door, listening. The dim light made the space feel smaller, and the silence pressed in on them. "Do you ever think of going back?" Tom asked. "To my home?" Aaron shook her head. "It would not be home anymore. The people I once trusted are gone or changed. My name there is only a curse." Tom studied her face. "Then why risk staying here with that information? You could destroy it. Walk away." Her expression hardened. "Because if I destroy it, those who profited from the war will be free to start another. Someone must stop them. I may not be able to do it alone, but I can keep the truth alive until the right hands take it." Tom felt a weight in her words. She was not just hiding. She was carrying a responsibility no one else wanted. A low hum filled the air, and the emergency lights brightened slightly. The main power was returning. The station's usual hum of machinery began to rise again. Aaron listened for a few seconds, then nodded. "It is safe to move now. Whoever was in the corridor is gone, or hiding again." They stepped out of the storage room and made their way back toward the main gardens. The lights there had come back on, and the water in the river sparkled under the artificial sun panels. As they reached the bench, Aaron stopped. "You asked me why I sit here. It is because the river is the one thing on this station that reminds me of home. The sound of water flowing helps me remember that not all things are built from steel and fear." Tom looked at her, then at the river. "I think I understand." She gave him a brief nod, then walked away toward the residential sector. Tom watched her go, thinking about everything she had told him. The blackout had shown him more than just the fragility of the station's systems. It had shown him the weight she carried and the danger that might be closer than he had realized. The blackout ended, but the unease on Halion did not. For the next 2 days, the station operated as normal, yet Tom noticed small changes. Security patrols were more frequent. He saw unfamiliar faces in the corridors, wearing plain clothes, but moving with the alertness of trained professionals. Rill said nothing about Aaron now. He avoided the topic entirely, as if speaking her name might bring trouble faster. Tom did not push him. On the 3rd evening after the blackout, Tom went to the gardens again. The artificial sunlight glowed in soft golden tones. The river was calm, and the air carried the faint scent of the flowering trees. Aaron was waiting on the bench. She was sitting straighter than usual, her hands folded neatly in her lap. "You are on time," she said when Tom approached. "I try to be," Tom replied, sitting beside her. "You said you would tell me everything. I am ready to listen." She studied him for a moment, as if weighing his resolve. Then she began. "When I worked as a negotiator, I had access to private communications between leaders on both sides of the war. In those messages, I learned about secret shipments, cargo hidden inside humanitarian aid, weapons, illegal technology, and in some cases, people taken from their homes to be sold. It was all organized by a group that operated in both governments, using the war as cover." Tom's jaw tightened. "You are saying they were profiting from the war while people died?" "Yes," she said quietly. "They needed the war to continue because it kept trade routes under their control. Every destroyed ship was replaced with one of theirs. Every lost city created more need for their supplies. They built power from the suffering of others." Tom looked at her closely. "And you have proof of this?" "I have data crystals," Aaron said. "Encrypted, hidden in several places on the station. If put together, they reveal every name, every deal, every route, enough to bring down the entire network." Tom could see the danger clearly now. That is why both sides want you silenced. She nodded. If I release the information without care, it could lead to another war as each side blames the other. But if I can get it to the right people, neutral leaders, honest ones, it could end their control completely. Tom thought for a moment. Then why have you not done it yet? Her eyes were steady on his. Because finding someone I can trust with it is not easy, and because the people looking for me are closer than ever. They know I am here. The blackout was not an accident. It was a test to see how I would move in the dark. The thought made Tom glance around the gardens. The calm atmosphere felt thinner now, fragile. What happens if they catch you? Tom asked. They will make it look like an accident, Aaron said simply. A malfunction, a sudden illness. The station council will not interfere. Tom felt a cold weight settle in his chest. He had known she was in danger, but hearing it so plainly made it real. Then we need to move, he said. We cannot just sit here and wait. Aaron's gaze softened slightly. We? You are already involved, more than I intended. You could still walk away. I will not, Tom said firmly. If what you say is true, then you are holding something that could change the future for a lot of people. I am not going to leave you to face this alone. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she reached into her coat and pulled out a small, smooth disc no bigger than Tom's thumb. She placed it in his hand. This is one part of the proof, she said. There are 4 others like it. I keep them in separate locations so they cannot be taken all at once. If something happens to me, you must take them to the meeting point I have marked on the data. Someone will be waiting there. They will know what to do. Tom looked down at the disc. It was plain and unmarked, yet it seemed to weigh more than it should. He closed his hand around it. I will protect it. Before Aaron could reply, a sound carried across the gardens, a short, sharp whistle, followed by 2 figures stepping onto the path. They were dressed in station uniforms, but their movements were wrong, too controlled, too direct. Aaron's voice dropped low. Those are not patrol officers. We need to go. Tom stood quickly. They walked away from the bench, keeping their pace steady. The 2 figures began following, not hurrying but closing the distance. Maintenance corridor? Tom asked. No, Aaron said. Too easy to trap us there. Market sector, more people, more eyes. They moved through the winding paths of the gardens until they reached the main corridor. The noise of the station surrounded them again. Voices, footsteps, the hum of machinery. But Tom could still feel the presence of their followers. By the time they reached the edge of the market, the crowd was thick. Merchants called out their offers, customers bargained loudly, and the smell of cooked food filled the air. Aaron led. Tom through the stalls, turning sharply at each corner. Finally, she stopped near a small food vendor and pretended to study the display. They will not try anything here, she said quietly. Too many witnesses, but they will not give up. Tom glanced around but saw no sign of the 2 figures. Still, he trusted her instincts. This is only the beginning, Aaron said, her voice low. Once they know you are carrying a part of the data, they will watch you as well. You will need to be careful. Tom nodded. I have been careful before. She looked at him with a faint smile. Not careful enough to stay away from me. That was never my plan, Tom said. They stayed in the market until the flow of people began to thin. Then they walked back toward the residential sector together. The tension in the air had not faded, but something had changed between them. For the first time, Tom was not just a curious stranger sitting on a bench. He was part of her mission, and whether he was ready or not, the truth she carried was now, in his hands as well. When they reached the point where their paths split, Aaron stopped. Keep it hidden. Do not tell anyone you have it. And if you see those men again, do not try to fight them. Just get away. "I will," Tom said. They parted without another word. As Tom walked back to his quarters, he felt the weight of the small disk in his pocket. It was not just information. It was a piece of a truth, powerful enough to change the balance of power in the galaxy. The morning on Halion began like any other, but the calm was false. Tom had barely finished breakfast when the announcement echoed across the station. The voice of the public speaker was crisp, mechanical, and carried authority. Security alert. All personnel remain in assigned sectors. Unauthorized activity will be reported. All residents must stay in their quarters until further notice. Tom's stomach tightened. He knew immediately this was not a routine alert. He left his small quarters quickly, moving toward the gardens where he knew Aaron would be. The station corridors were unusually quiet, and the air felt tense. The hum of machinery seemed sharper, louder than usual, as if the station itself was aware of the danger approaching. When he reached the gardens, Aaron was already there, standing near the river. Her teal-blue skin glowed in the artificial sunlight. But her eyes were alert and cautious. "They are here," she said simply. Tom nodded. "I guessed as much. What do we do?" Aaron glanced around. "We do not fight them here. Too many witnesses. We need to get to the maintenance corridors, fast and quiet." They moved swiftly through the winding paths of the gardens. Every few steps, Tom looked over his shoulder. Two men in station uniforms followed at a distance, moving with quiet precision. Their faces were set, and their posture was rigid. These were not ordinary security officers. These were professionals, trained to capture without causing a scene. As they reached the edge of the gardens, Aaron led Tom into a narrow service corridor. The walls were lined with pipes and storage units, and the lighting was dim. "Stay close to me," Aaron whispered. They walked quickly, keeping low and using the shadows for cover. Tom felt the weight of the small disk in his pocket. It was more than just a piece of information. It was the key to stopping the illegal operations Aaron had discovered. Suddenly, the corridor ahead was blocked by two more figures. Tom froze. Aaron's eyes narrowed. "Move to the left. Follow me." They ducked behind a large crate. The two figures stepped into the corridor, scanning the area. Aaron waited until they passed, then led Tom through a side passage that twisted and turned, eventually opening into another service hallway. "You trust me," she said quietly. Tom nodded. "I trust you. I do not know why, but I do." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Then you understand why we cannot wait any longer. The information must reach its destination tonight. Every moment we delay, the hunters get closer." Tom felt a surge of determination. "Then let's move." They continued through the maze of corridors until they reached a small maintenance exit that opened onto a service deck near the outer docking bays. Here, the hum of engines and the faint smell of fuel filled the air. Ships lined the platform, some preparing for departure. "This is our way out," Aaron said. "There is a small transport waiting. It is not registered in the station logs, so it should not draw attention. But we must move quickly." As they approached the transport, the sound of footsteps echoed behind them. The hunters had found their trail. Aaron grabbed Tom's arm. "Run!" They sprinted across the service deck. Tom's heart pounded in his chest. The hunters were close, but the crowd of workers and travelers on the platform gave them a chance to blend in. They weaved between crates, past maintenance bots, and toward the small transport ship at the far end. One of the hunters tried to block their path, but Aaron pushed Tom behind a cargo crate and faced the man directly. She moved with speed and precision, using her strength to force him aside just long enough for Tom to reach the ship. Tom clambered aboard the small craft. The engine started with a soft hum, and Aaron joined him immediately. "Hold on," she said, securing the controls. The transport lifted from the deck, moving away from Halion. As the station shrank behind them, Tom finally had a moment to breathe. That was close, he said, glancing at Aaron. She nodded. Too close. They will not stop until they have the information. And now, you are a part of it. You have chosen a side. Tom looked out the small window. Stars stretched across the sky and Halion became a distant dot. I am not leaving you to face this alone, he said. Aaron studied him for a moment. Few would have stayed, she said. Fewer would have moved with me when danger came. You are different. I did not come this far to turn back, Tom said simply. The small ship sped through space, moving toward a hidden rendezvous point Aaron had marked in her data. She began to explain more about the locations of the other disks and the people waiting to receive them. Each word made Tom more aware of the stakes. If they failed, the network of corruption Aaron had uncovered would continue to grow. If they succeeded, it could save thousands of lives. Hours passed as they navigated through asteroid fields and avoided patrolling ships. Tom watched Aaron work with calm precision. She was skilled at piloting, at hiding from pursuers, and at maintaining focus under pressure. At one point, Tom could not help but ask, "How have you survived this long alone?" Aaron's gaze met his. Careful planning, trust in few people, and always staying 2 steps ahead. But even I have limits. That is why I needed someone I could trust with the disk. And that is why you came along. Tom felt a sense of responsibility settle over him. He was no longer just a curious technician. He was a protector, and the success of this mission depended on him as much as it did on Aaron, as the hidden rendezvous point came into view, a small asteroid station camouflaged in shadow. Aaron slowed the transport and prepared to dock. The relief in Tom's chest was tempered by awareness. This was only a temporary safety. They were still in enemy territory, and the hunters would not stop. Once we dock, we hand off the first disk, Aaron said. Then we move quickly to the next. There is no time for rest. Tom nodded, gripping the edge of his seat. I am ready. Aaron gave a brief, approving nod. The small transport slipped into the docking bay, merging with shadows and machinery. They moved swiftly, keeping to hidden corridors and avoiding detection. Finally, they reached a secure room. Inside, another person waited. A neutral representative, trained to handle sensitive information. Aaron handed over the disk, her hands steady despite the tension. The representative examined it and nodded. Everything seems intact. You have done well? Tom felt a surge of relief, but Aaron's gaze remained serious. This is only the beginning, she said. The others are still out there, and they will not stop until every disk is recovered. Tom looked at her. Then we keep moving, together. Aaron's eyes softened slightly. Yes, together. As they prepared to leave the docking bay, Tom realized the full truth of what he had chosen. The path ahead was dangerous, full of enemies and uncertainty. But he also understood that some risks were worth taking, especially when the future of so many depended on courage and trust. The hidden station hung quietly in the shadow of a large asteroid. Tom and Aaron moved through its narrow corridors, the weight of their mission heavy in every step. The first disk was safely delivered, but the remaining ones were scattered across different locations. The hunters were still out there and time was running short. Aaron paused at a junction, her eyes scanning every shadow. The next disk is in the old communications hub on Halion. It is heavily guarded, but there is a route that avoids the main security checkpoints. Tom listened carefully. And the hunters? They will be there, she said. But if we move quickly and stay smart, we can outmaneuver them. Tom's mind raced. The risks were enormous. One wrong move, and the network of corruption could regain control, or worse, they could lose their lives. But he did not hesitate. Then let's do it. They boarded a small transport, smaller than the one before, designed to slip through. Narrow docking bays and avoid scanners. Aaron piloted with precision, weaving between asteroid debris and station traffic. Tom studied the controls and the map Aaron had provided. He could feel the tension, the urgency, and yet, in the way Aaron worked, there was a calm certainty that inspired him. As they neared the communications hub, the station's security grid lit up like a net. Motion sensors, automated turrets, and patrol drones patrolled the area. Aaron's hands moved over the controls swiftly. "We go now," she whispered. The transport dipped low behind a storage container on the hub's outer platform. Tom followed her lead, keeping close. Shadows stretched across the floor as automated lights swept past, missing them by inches. Inside the hub, the air smelled faintly of ozone and machinery. Rows of communication arrays hummed quietly. Tom followed Aaron down a narrow service corridor. They paused behind a metal wall as a group of armed guards passed by. "They have no idea we are here," Aaron said softly. "We need to move before they discover the outer gate is breached." Tom nodded, gripping the small disk she had entrusted him with during their last run. This disk contained the second set of information, the proof that could stop the corrupt network once and for all. They reached the storage room where the disk was kept. It was locked behind a reinforced panel. Aaron crouched and began typing in a sequence only she knew. Tom watched the corridor, alert for any sound that indicated the hunters were closing in. The lock clicked, and the door slid open. Aaron retrieved the disk, holding it carefully. "Two down," she said. "Two more to go. We cannot delay." As they prepared to leave, a loud alarm blared. Tom's heart raced. A guard had discovered the breach. "Hunters!" Aaron hissed. Tom and Aaron ran toward a secondary exit. Security drones activated, scanning the corridors with sharp blue beams. Tom ducked under the first beam, then the second. Aaron led him through a maze of maintenance tunnels. Every step brought them closer to freedom, but the danger increased with every corner. Finally, they reached the edge of the hub, where their small transport was waiting. Aaron jumped inside, and Tom followed immediately. The engines roared as the craft lifted off. Outside, the guards and drones searched frantically, but the transport slipped into the shadows, invisible to their sensors. Breathing heavily, Tom turned to Aaron. "We did it," he said. "For now," she replied. "We still have 2 disks, and the network is alert. They know we are moving." Over the next several hours, they delivered the remaining disks to neutral representatives across the station. Each handoff was tense, requiring careful timing and precision. The hunters were never far behind, but Tom and Aaron used every skill they had learned, the hidden corridors, shadowed platforms, and the chaos of busy station areas, to stay ahead. Finally, after delivering the 4th disk, Aaron guided the transport to a secluded observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly, and the vast emptiness of space gave them a moment of calm. "We have done it," Tom said, his voice quiet but full of relief. Aaron looked at him, her eyes serious. "The information is safe. It will reach the right leaders. The corrupt network cannot rebuild quickly. Halion is safe, and many lives will be spared because of what we have done." Tom felt a swell of pride and awe. Here was a woman, a being from another world, carrying the weight of truth and danger, and he had helped her succeed. But more than that, he realized something profound. Humanity had a role in this. His courage, his choices, his willingness. To act despite fear had made the difference. Aaron placed a hand on his shoulder. "You chose to trust, to act, to stay. That is something rare. That is why this worked." Tom smiled, feeling the exhaustion of the past days, yet also a deep satisfaction. "We make a good team," he said. Aaron's lips curved into a faint smile. "Yes, but now comes the hard part. We must disappear for a while. Let the network rebuild. Let the leaders act on the truth. If we stay, they will come again." Tom nodded. "Then we move quietly. but we stay together. As the observation deck's doors closed behind them, they looked out at Halion, its lights glowing softly against the darkness of space. The station had been saved, not by powerful armies, not by advanced weaponry, but by courage, cleverness, and the will to do what was right. In that moment, Tom understood what HFY truly meant. Humanity could be small in a galaxy of immense civilizations, but the strength of human courage, ingenuity, and loyalty could tip the balance. They had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, and they had prevailed. Aaron turned to him. "Thank you, Tom, for everything." He shook his head. "No, thank you, Aaron, for trusting me, for letting me be part of this." The stars stretched endlessly before them. Somewhere far away, the corrupt network was beginning to crumble. The lives they had saved were countless, though unseen and unknown, and Tom knew that this was only the beginning of a larger journey. But, for now, they had won. Against fear, against danger, against the odds, humanity had stood tall. They had acted with courage, wisdom, and heart.